April 17th. Item 34 is an ordinance amending the San Francisco Environmental Code by adding Chapter 17, Section 1701 through 09 to require the use of compostable plastic, recyclable paper, and/or reusable check bags by stores located in the city and provide penalties for violations.
We will start with the author, Supervisor Mirkarimi.
Thank you, Board President Peskin. Colleagues, this issue is not unfamiliar to us. It's been dancing with us for well over a year and a half. Frankly, I am astounded and surprised by the, not national, but literally the worldwide attention that this issue has received. Quite frankly, I think it's a very benign issue, just driven by the common sense, consistent with other policy making that this board and our predecessors has administered before. But for some reason, San Francisco is poised to be the first city in the United States to move forward on legislation of this type. The ability of us to be here couldn't have happened if it wasn't for the collective effort, and I just want to recognize my colleagues, but in particular the City Operations and Neighborhood Services Committee, the good work of Supervisor Alioto-Pierre in helping strengthen this legislation, as well as Supervisor McGoldrick in helping facilitate what had been a very thorough and exhaustive discussion, as we have had intervals of good discussion since 2005 that I've entered office. I very much appreciate the insights of Supervisor Jew in that committee and others who have helped, I think, train us to be absolutely secure and confident that this is the best piece of legislation that hopefully other cities and other states will follow suit. Ever since the polyethylene or petroleum-made plastic bag was invented in the 1950s and then proliferated massively in the 1970s, and since in the United States, that was hailed as the wave of the future. But when we look at the environmental and economic costs of dealing with the waste of petroleum-based plastic bags, now it has become a relic of the past. And other nations have also experienced and come to terms that they need to change the way that they exist and coexist with plastic bags, which is why they have banned them or have levied a very high tax. In San Francisco, because we have a very, very vigorous recycling program. Thank you to the Department of the Environment and all their good work and diligence in helping us get here. We are now enabled to use the idea of a compostable plastic bag so that we can allow San Franciscans the option of putting that bag into their green card. This is revolutionary, and yet it's very simplistic on the face. However, though, based on the last year and a half plus, due to the resistance that had stemmed, due to the resistance that was created that tried to stem the tide of the initial passage of this legislation, at least a variation thereof, that I contemplated in late 2005, as you well know, this city entered into a voluntary agreement which was less than satisfying in the year 2006. So early 2007, I think it came to the conclusion of not just many of you here, and I think Supervisors Amiano, Mikhail Alioto-Pierre, McGoldrick, Maxwell, Daly, Sandoval, and Supervisor Peskin in co-sponsoring this legislation, and now we understand the mayor is in support of this as well, that the right place at the right time is to compel a ban on non-recyclable or biodegradable plastic bags for the largest grocery stores and now the largest pharmacy/grocery stores to have to provide for a compostable biodegradable plastic bag. I look forward to your support of this piece of legislation. I look forward to the fact that other cities who have been calling us, hoping that this does triumph here, I believe that it will proliferate in other cities. And just to give you some indication, here's a kind of a wild anecdote, but yesterday we were looking at the Nikkei website in Tokyo, and they were already making a prospective report about the impending passage of this legislation, and they were talking about how this actually could change the economy of where plastics are going, alternative to plastics, and that was a featured sort of report literally on our legislation prospectively and speculating that this would pass. So I think that this is a wave of good things to come as we try to reconcile the needs of both a healthy economy and a viable and healthy environment. I look forward to your support.
Thank you.
Just real quickly, I want to speak to sort of some of the earlier comments by one of our colleagues. It's a little bit Orwellian to suggest that we would not pass up, or that we would pass up an opportunity such as, I think, putting forth meaningful legislation that I think is indicative of an important time when we're dealing with environmental degradation, an economy that remains somewhat challenged by wars abroad and the end of an era of cheap oil. But I also look backwards at a time when our predecessors and mayors had contemplated and succeeded in a ban on aerosol cans. San Francisco was the first. Or putting forth the challenge to the tobacco industry, or putting forth a ban on the pull-up tabs on soda cans that were cutting people. We were first. And I noticed that there also were legislators back then who also had remarked about the need to keep our eyes on the other kind of pressing issues that everybody here does a good job of, and we can always do something more of. However, though, this is why San Francisco is so unique in pioneering this kind of legislation that makes this state proud and that leads the path for the United States, which inevitably becomes a great bellwether as how the rest of the country would follow. And that has been proven time and time again, like the domestic partners legislation, as well as other legislation, environmentally, civil liberties, social justice-wise. So I'd like to believe in some small measure this might join that rank, that perhaps we might do some good while we're tending to everything else that obviously obligates our attention. Thank you.
On the item, a roll call, please.
On item 34, Supervisor McGolrick. McGolrick, aye. Supervisor Mirkarimi.
Aye.
Mirkarimi, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Sandoval. Sandoval, aye. Supervisor Alliot-Appier. Alliot-Appier, aye. Supervisor Amiano. Amiano, aye. Supervisor Daley. Daley, aye. Supervisor Dufty. Dufty, aye. Supervisor Ellsburn. Ellsburn, aye. Supervisor Jew. Jew, no. Supervisor Maxwell. Maxwell, aye. 10 ayes, 1 no.
Ordinance is passed on first reading.